the world that managed to maintain healthy growth. For 2011, for example, the IMF expects the GCC countries as a group to grow at 8%, in other words, a return to pre-crisis levels. Ladies and gentlemen, having been given a superficial insight into the principles that have guided the GCC's development over the last 3 decades and how they are helping us address current and future challenges, I now want briefly to address how the GCC sees its place in the region and the world, and how it works constructively with international friends and partners. In its relationship both with its neighbors and with the rest of the world, the GCC believes in comprehensive cooperation. Indeed, the pillars of security, prosperity, and resilience can only truly be achieved through such cooperation within each state, between member states, and between the GCC and its friends and allies. While we strongly believe in cooperation, we also reject any interference in our internal affairs and strongly adhere to the same principle in dealing with our neighbors. Over the past decade, the GCC as a group has entered into collective trade negotiations and/or strategic dialogues with most of its key partners. Cooperation and strategic dialogue agreements that we have signed with those partners follow a comprehensive cooperation approach. They include coordination, integration, and cooperation in almost all key areas. We are engaged in ongoing joint work with our partners on trade, education, culture, energy, the environment, as well as on security and political coordination. As part of this comprehensive approach, GCC countries have for decades provided development assistance both in their immediate neighborhood and beyond, and their development agencies are well known for their support of such programs the world over. For example, approximately $1.65 billion to finance projects in Gaza Strip through the GCC program for the reconstruction of Gaza. Some $15 billion to Egypt in various forms to help meet economic challenges of transition. A leading role in providing humanitarian assistance in Libya. Significant international development aid and humanitarian assistance, including projects throughout Africa. Assisting Yemen in meeting security and economic challenges, including approximately $3.75 billion in funds between the year 2007 and 2011. Since recent events began in Yemen earlier this year, the GCC has worked closely with other international partners through the Friends of Yemen group, which sought to encourage Yemen to implement reforms in all areas. Further, in April, 5 GCC states launched an initiative that aims to bring about a peaceful transfer of power in Yemen. That initiative, which was fully supported by the international community, is still on the table, signed by the opposition and the ruling party, and awaiting approval by all parties in order for it to take effect. Applying its principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of its neighbors, the GCC has respected the wishes of the people of those countries and provided support where it was needed and requested. In Libya, the GCC was a leader in calling for a no-fly zone to protect civilians, a call supported by the Arab League, and which resulted in the UN Security Council providing such protection. Distinguished guests, all this gives me real confidence in the role of the GCC. I have no doubt that through the commitment of its member countries and the active engagement of all its people, the GCC will continue to progress based on the pillars of security, prosperity, and resilience. It will provide further opportunities and development to all its citizens while playing a constructive role both regionally and internationally. Indeed, as I conclude, I can confidently say that while recent events have undoubtedly provided challenges, they have also provided lessons and historic and valuable opportunities. They have strengthened the bonds between member states and enhanced the role and cohesion of the GCC as an organization. The fact that we have stood firm and united internally while continuing to extend aid and assistance to our neighbors has proved that the GCC has been built on solid foundations. Now we must ensure that what we build onto these foundations is not only strong, but most importantly, flexible enough to overcome the many and major challenges which we will certainly face in the near and distant future. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
I'd like now to invite His Royal Highness Turki bin Faisal Al Saud to address the audience. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أفضل المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dr. Abdulaziz, thank you very much for your invitation. Your Excellency Zayani, thank you for being with us on the panel, and distinguished guests also. It's quite a privilege to be sitting among you, as it is to be addressing you, such a distinguished audience. It's nice to be back in Cambridge. I have a brother who graduated from Cambridge, so there is a family link to the city. And I would like to congratulate those present here, those of them who are attending the university, but also just for being in the city of Cambridge. Dr. Suleiman invited, I think, a comment, if not directly, then indirectly, on what to call what is happening in the Arab world today. He mentioned several descriptions and names. I have not reached a conclusion, but I will hopefully say that we don't call it in coming years the bloodbath in the Arab world, because certainly it has aspects of that, in my view, more than it has of spring flowers or new growth. From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, looking at the events that have happened in the Arab world, I'm reminded of previous such tsunamis as the events have been described in the Arab world these days. The first, of course, was the military coup d'etats that followed the Second World War and the establishment of the State of Israel and Palestine. And those spread from Egypt to other countries, first Syria, of course, then Egypt, then Iraq, etc. And the second wave that we went through was the wave of so-called Arab socialism. All of us remember those days, with countries espousing that doctrine as a means of trying to either uplift their capabilities, both human and economic, or to face the challenges of meeting outside threats